Hello, I'm Wayne from Talk Cars. So the situation that we often get asked about is someone's got a 1 litre car and they want to turn it into a 2 litre GTI. So in this video we're going to look at the process of converting a car that's got very little power into one that's actually much more fun to drive and has a lot more power. We're going to answer the questions, why should you do this and why shouldn't you do this? At the end we're going to go into the best mods for a relatively low powered car. There's two types of people. One person may just not be able to afford a GTI in the first place, so they've bought the 1 litre version of the car and they're looking to, over years, build it up into a GTI. The second type of person is just someone who wants an interesting project. So they've bought the shell of a 1 litre car and they're looking to turn that into a GTI and make something special. So what's actually involved in this conversion process? What are the differences between a GTI and a 1 litre car? Well, the obvious thing is the engine. The 1 litre hasn't got very much of an engine, so power is going to be way down, probably about 70 brake horsepower, and a GTI with the 2 litre engine will be making about 190 brake horsepower. So straight away you've got a massive power difference between the two cars. So can you get 190, 200 brake horsepower out of a 1 litre engine? Well, if you strip it down, completely rebuild it, put forged parts inside and whack on a great big turbocharger, it's possible, but it's really not worth it. That's going to cost so much money. So the best route would just be to get a GTI engine and do an engine transplant. But that's not the only difference between these two cars. The 2 litre GTI, for example, has much better brakes. The wheels tend to be much larger and it's better at dealing with the extra power through the grip that the extra wheel size and extra tyre size actually provides. So it's not just the engine that's different between these two cars. The GTI will have bigger, meatier wheels and better tyres, so it'll be better able to transmit that power to the ground. Your brakes are going to be much better on the GTI, so they're things that you also need to adjust and take into account when performing this conversion. And the GTI has a different gearbox, so the gearbox ratios are going to be different for the power, and it will probably have some kind of differential or some kind of clever front axle design to make sure that the traction gets the power down on the road. It may even have a quattro or 4-wheel drive system to really release all of that power through the road. So straight away we've not just thought about upgrading the engine, we've started to think about the wheels, the transmission, the limited slip differential, and actually getting that power down on the road. But it doesn't stop there. There's still more involved in this conversion process. The overall handling of a GTI is much better, so the suspension will be slightly firmer, slightly lower, and you'll certainly be dealing with upgraded shocks all round. Just dropping a 2 litre engine into the 1 litre body will upset the suspension. It's been set up for a relatively light 1 litre engine and you've put a lot more weight over the front axle, and that's going to alter the whole geometry and setup of the suspension. So you'd need to upgrade the suspension system as well. You'll also notice that the interior and the general equipment you get with the GTI is usually much better than it is with a 1 litre car. You get more gadgets in the car, the seats are much nicer. The general trim levels around the dashboard and in the interior is much better on the GTI. So if you really want to convert your car into a GTI, there are also things that you need to think about doing. Although they don't strictly add to the performance, you really do want to create the whole package. So why should you convert a 1 litre car into a 2 litre GTI? Well, it's fun, it's interesting, it's a learning curve. It's great to have a project, something that teaches you about cars, how they go together, and setting a car up. It's a great learning experience. It's wonderful fun to do this sort of thing, but it will cost a lot of money. And why shouldn't you do that? Well, that cost is the primary reason. It would be cheaper to go out and buy a GTI and just apply some modifications and upgrades to that. When you compare that to the cost of getting the engine, getting the suspension, suspension, getting the brakes sorted, and all these other ancillary components that you'll need to do on your 1 litre car, it really isn't worth it from a cost point of view. If you were that person that just bought the 1 litre car because you couldn't afford a GTI, you're never actually going to get there in converting it to a GTI. The cost is just going to be prohibitive, and that's just going to become one of those unfinished projects that we see for sale where some bits have been done but it's not really been finished. So what mods can you actually do to a 1 litre car to make it more fun to drive? Well, we would primarily focus on improving the handling. All cars, when they get up to speed, you want them to corner nicely and handle nicely, and that can make a big difference to your enjoyment of the car. So the first thing we would recommend doing on a lower powered car is sorting out the suspension. Presumably the car is older and the bushings on the suspension, the rubber bushes that connect the suspension components to the chassis, have become rather worn over time, so it makes sense to get those renewed. Just putting a set of new bushes on can make a big difference, but you can get polyurethane bushes and they come in different grades and different firmnesses. You don't want to go too hard because they do take vibration out of the wheels and make your ride a lot more comfortable, so you want those bushings to give a little bit. And just getting a decent set of suspension, a set of coilovers for example that are adjustable, it'll allow you to alter the ride height and set the suspension and handling up to exactly suit you. And we'd also recommend you look at the brakes and improve those. It would be an extreme folly to just go out there and stick a powerful engine in a 1 litre car and retain the existing brakes and the existing wheels. You're never going to get that power down. It's going to create a positively dangerous car to drive. And the other issue you've got with these conversions is insurance. So if you bought the GTI, you would be able to get insured at just about any company out there that would take your age and driving experience. But as soon as you've modified a car, the choices you get to choose from are dramatically reduced. You'll probably be dealing with 3 or 4 different specialists that can handle modified cars, and you'll pay a lot more to insure a modified 1 litre car than you would for a GTI. In most cases, there are always exceptions when it comes to insurance and insurance costs. So we really hope this video has been interesting, even if you're not trying to convert a 1 litre car into a GTI. Hopefully it has made us all think carefully about our project, where we're going and how much it's going to cost. I personally have had a project car that I spent far too much money on. It's often the way with these first cars you get enthusiastic, you keep doing things to them, you undo those mods and have to redo the mods to get the next power level that you want. And if I'd put all of that money in the bank, I could have bought myself a really nice car, but as it happens, it just dripped money into this project car that never really became what I wanted it to be, and it was still quite unreliable and let me down a lot. So enjoy your car, enjoy your project, but be reasonable about where you're going with it. Our site is a great place to go to get advice on all the different mods and realistic expectations of what they're going to do for you, and it helps people to make an informed decision. Don't go by the instructions on the box. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. We've got more interesting video features coming up. We really do appreciate all the support, all of the likes that we get, and all of your comments and feedback. Let us know what you're doing to your car, what your projects are, things you've discovered along the way, because it all helps to expand this knowledge about car tuning for all of our readers and all of our viewers. So thanks for watching, and remember to stay tuned.